This is from the Bureau. Exclusive how the RCMP, CBSA, and Trudeau government lost the U.S. trust in the fentanyl fight. Could it have something to do with all the super labs we have in this country and also our government giving fentanyl to people? So several veterans of Canadian law enforcement argue that while President Donald Trump's critiques of Canada's mishandling of fentanyl trafficking and border security are politically charged and often harsh, they underscore an uncomfortable reality. Canada is increasingly perceived as compromised, either incapable or unwilling to confront entrenched transnational criminal networks. American and Canadian sources alike describe a nation whose law enforcement agencies are in disarray, inhibited by suspected infiltration at the highest levels, obstructing investigations into billion-dollar drug networks and money laundering operations. They point to the notorious case of Cameron Ortis, Canada's former top intelligence official who was convicted of leaking Five Eyes signals intelligence to some of the world's most dangerous Iranian state-sponsored criminals. His case, still cloaked in national security secrecy, is believed to have also involved Chinese espionage investigations. But concerned about corruption within Canada's law enforcement and intelligence agencies extend far beyond Ortis himself, according to enforcement experts who spoke on the condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of this matter. So all that begs the question, or maybe it beggars belief, that we do not have quite yet a fentanyl czar. And that was like the one thing that Trump really wanted us to deal with. It was the one thing Daniel Smith was like, Trump says he wants us to have a fentanyl czar. Let's get one immediately yesterday. And here we are, a week and a bit out from our reprieve from impending tariffs, and we still don't have a fentanyl czar in the way that Trump would like. We've got Doug Ford urging lame duck Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to appoint a fentanyl czar. Are these guys, is their bromance over? Or is it?
And we need the Trudeau government to get on with naming the fentanyl czar. It's been 7 days. It's been a whole week. This can't be the speed we operate at. Prime Minister Trudeau, I'm urging you, name the fentanyl czar today. Name them now. As we stare down the threat of tariffs and growing economic risks from south of the border, risk that will last through the next 4 years. I want to reiterate what I've said before, what I've said from the very beginning. Canada and the United States are the strongest when we work together.
Finally, wanting to work together, be diplomatic. But as you mentioned, Sheila, Canada, the government is one of the largest fentanyl dealers. So why would they want to appoint a czar to mitigate or quell their own dealings? And specifically when it comes to fentanyl, later on in that article, I think just before the end, two paragraphs up, Canada's largest ever money laundering investigation, E-Pirate, was directly linked to Sam Gore, a fact not widely disclosed. According to a Canadian source, the investigation collapsed in late 2019 after a police witness was exposed, resulting in a high-profile failure in federal court. Since then, Sam Gore's leaders have continued to exploit Canada for fentanyl trafficking and money laundering, facing little resistance. E-Pirate uncovered how their operations funneled billions in drug cash through British Columbia government casinos, hundreds of Chinese bank accounts, and vast pools of illicit funds circulating throughout Latin America. This is a scathing report from the Bureau. Just further up, I meant to actually start here. It said, at the center of U.S. government alarm, sources believe is the case of Sam Gore, one of the world's most powerful triad drug trafficking networks, with reported links to Chinese Communist Party operatives, according to U.S. government experts such as David Asher. And they said Australia had tried to warn Canada about this threat, about Sam Gore, also known as the company, long before the RCMP recognized it as a major transnational syndicate. And again, this is all just falling on deaf ears. Sam Gore's links Southeast Asian drug networks responsible for trafficking tens of billions of dollars in fentanyl and methamphetamine to global operations involving Latin American cartels and large-scale money laundering. And then it goes on with what I've just read there. As I said, this is a scathing report. And again, it's just been swept under the rug, ignored, and go along to get along by the Liberal government since 2019, at least, at the very least.
Yeah. We've also got Danielle Smith, her tweeting that it's been a full week since U.S. President Donald Trump and the Canadian government reached a border security agreement that included a 30-day window. So we're now 23 days left on that. To demonstrate our nation's commitment to securing our shared border against fentanyl trafficking and illegal migration. Who do you think? And let's keep going. Alberta's perplexed and concerned by the delay in appointing this fentanyl czar and calls on the government to do so without further delay. There's much work to be done. And while efforts to strengthen border security and crack down on fentanyl trafficking have begun across the country, these efforts will have limited effect without a federal lead to coordinate the national response. And she's going, as she said, with her fellow premiers to Washington, D.C., to advocate on behalf of their provinces without the help of the federal government. Now, I'm concerned about who the federal government would choose as their fentanyl czar. I saw a rumor on X, and it's so far just a rumor. I haven't heard anything from anybody in the know. Brenda Lucki, former commissioner of the RCMP, the one who just, every time he turned around, she was hugging Justin Trudeau. I'm also worried that they might choose somebody as incapable as Bill Blair. I'm worried that maybe they might choose somebody like Bonnie Henry when they probably should be choosing somebody like Mike Ellis, the public safety minister here in Alberta, who is a former police officer who has taken like a zero compromise approach on fentanyl trafficking, and couple that with our addictions procedures here in Alberta. We are people who take this seriously. And, they've stepped up because Justin Trudeau's bail reform has failed. We monitor Justin Trudeau's bail releases here in Alberta on our own, expanding the sheriffs to do that. So that would be like my fantasy football pick for who should be the fentanyl czar. But I'm worried we're going to get Bonnie Henry.
Oh, this is a great idea. Can we actually do like a fantasy border czar draft?
Who would you pick?
That'd be really fun to do. But we don't have a federal government, right?
Right.
Justin Trudeau prorogued Parliament. So all parliamentary affairs and business is frozen at a complete standstill. And then he resigned, despite the fact that he's still apparently somehow quasi leading Canada as the lame duck sitting outgoing prime minister. But we don't have who's going to actually appoint this person. Is it going to be Trudeau? We don't have a federal government. Nothing's functioning right now on the federal level amid such tumultuous times and relationships with the US. This is why the court hearing that's going to be happening this week on the 14th, I believe it's the 13th and 14th, or the 14th and 15th. There's a motion filed by the Canadian Constitutional Center.
CCF.
Yeah.
Foundation. Yeah.
Foundation. Thank you. To unprorogue Parliament, to get it back up and running.
Justice Center.
Thank
I think
you.
Is the lead on that. Yeah. Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms.
With Aris Libranos, I believe it is, and one other named party in there. But so we'll see if they're successful in unproroguing Parliament and getting them back in business, because I have a sneaky suspicion that the only reason why no one has been appointed to be the border czar is because we don't actually have anyone who is, obviously competent or capable of picking that in the Liberal Party, at least. But there is no federal government as it stands now. As soon as parliamentary business resumes, I suspect there will be a vote of non-confidence, and an election will be triggered, because whoever comes into Trudeau's role as his successor will not have been elected by anyone in Canada to lead the country. And as it stands, pre-prorogation of Parliament, there was two fringe minority parties banded together to form an unofficial coalition, an unofficial majority government, thereby skirting and undermining democracy anyway. So every which way you look at it, it's a mess, and Canada's in shambles as a result, more than it already was prior to the new year of 2025.